Today, let's talk about technological disobedience. This is a great term coined by the artist Ernesto Arroza. He used it to describe Cuban innovation during the economic hardships in the special period in time of peace, when people had to improvise solutions to support themselves, inventing creative technological solutions with the resources available. If you're interested in these solutions as well as Arroza's work and research, I'll link a short 2011 interview from Motherboard below in the description where you can learn more. In this video, though, I want to expand this idea beyond 1990s Cuba to think about what technological disobedience means to us in the modern world, considering the technological disobedience of circuit bending, hacking, creative coding, 3D printing, and glitch art. As someone who grew up in eastern Massachusetts, just down the road from Walden, the term technological disobedience immediately conjures Henry David Thoreau and his 1849 essay calling for civil disobedience. In this essay, Thoreau talks about his disobedience to the government, in his case not paying taxes, in protest of the government's unjust practices, which at the time included slavery. Thoreau advocates for a personal morality over a scrupulous adherence to the laws. It is not desirable to cultivate a respect for the law so much as for the right. The only obligation which I have a right to assume is to do at any time what I think is right. This essay certainly has a very libertarian tone, but as an artist, I'm not interested in discussing government as there are plenty other people already doing that on the internet. So let's switch from civil disobedience to technological disobedience. I actually don't know if Ernesto Arroza was trying to evoke Thoreau's essay with this term, but now, rather than disobeying laws, what does it mean to disobey technology? Arroza explains that people think beyond the normal capacities of an object and try to surpass the limitations that it imposes on itself. Technology, when created, has designed into it the rules of how we are supposed to use that technology, the expectation of the designers. Limitations have been consciously and unconsciously introduced by the designer and woven into the technology before distribution. Ultimately, though, the technology lands in the hands of the users. We own these objects, so we can choose how we interact with them. We can use them as prescribed, and we can explore the possibilities that they offer, perhaps even opening up, jury-rigging, and repurposing this technology. The Cuban technological disobedience that Arroza speaks of was born out of a scarcity of resources, self-repairing, modifying, and repurposing technology to make up for things that weren't available. So, if we don't have scarce resources, why should we be interested? Well, this is my opinion, but I think that the more people who participate in shaping our technoculture, the better. I want more people to feel empowered in their interactions with these systems. I think that's better for all of us as individuals, and better for us as a democratic society. We spend hundreds of dollars on our PlayStations, iPhones, and other interactive devices, and so how much agency should we have over how we interact with them? These devices are designed to be very challenging to service or repair, unlike consumer electronics of the 20th century, and if you have an issue outside of the manufacturer warranty, the solution is to just replace the device, a fact that has both financial and ecological repercussions. Some people do take control of these devices through jailbreaking them. This includes making software and sometimes hardware changes to the devices in order to open up functionality that wasn't intended or intentionally limited by the designer. In the case of the iPhone, this means that users can install software that doesn't appear on the App Store, which all must be pre-approved by Apple. To be clear, I don't condone cybercrime and pirating software that you didn't compensate the programmers for. If you're cheating others or taking things that don't belong to you, then it becomes difficult to claim that your personal morality is greater than that of the technology you're disobeying, an important part of Thoreau's definition. Stretching Thoreau's statements, disobeying the rules of the technology gives us the freedom to express our own morality and values. Keep in mind these companies, Twitter, Facebook, Apple, Google, including YouTube, don't exist to serve moral goals, they exist for profit. We don't have to necessarily fault them for this, but it's worth understanding that that's what they're designed to do. Profit by holding your attention for advertisements, not altruistically make your life easier for the betterment of humanity. This brings us to another reason that I'm interested in technological disobedience for artistic expression. It breaks through the polished veneer of most of our mainstream media diet. As end users and consumers, we get to enjoy the hyperreality of pristine recorded sound, beautifully lit 4K video and video games, and touched up photos. these are all great, but life is gritty. A little disobedience and looking behind the curtain can help remind us about the reality of the world, that there's more news than appears in our curated social media newsfeed, that Disneyland is not reality, and we have a responsibility to engage with the world beyond our information bubbles. This isn't to say that we shouldn't learn how to use technology as it's intended. I mean, being able to use MS Word is a pretty important skill, but as consumers of technoculture, it seems worthwhile for us to consider the implications of it. Learning how to use technology properly is also a very good idea, but I believe critical thought should inform our obedience and disobedience. So, how can we practice technological disobedience? The first step is to not be scared of technology. Two very reasonable fears are, 1, that you're going to hurt yourself, and 2, that you're going to break the technology. To address these fears, a good place to start can be circuit bending old battery-powered toys. Circuit bending takes old and discarded devices and repurposes, upcycles them. By changing obsolete and broken technology into instruments of art, we're elevating these devices while we customize them. If we're working on a battery-powered device, we're unlikely to hurt ourselves taking things apart. And if we're working on a discarded toy we bought for a couple bucks at Goodwill, we don't lose much if we end up totally breaking the device. What about games? Games are great. We can also circuit bend game consoles. You can grab an old Sega Genesis for 30 bucks, or an old Game Boy for sometimes even less. Or you can mod games. Or you can make your own games using tools like Twine, Bitsy, or PuzzleScript. In addition to making or modding games, there are other ways to do creative coding, programming Arduino or Raspberry Pis, or how about making subversive Twitter bots that post art or poetry. I also like data bending and other glitch art as examples of the aesthetics of misusing technology. Lo-fi music too. The 21st century offers us the ability to make polished recordings at home, so lo-fi music is accomplished by intentionally subverting the purpose of hi-fi audio technology. However you practice it, let's enjoy the liberation of some technological disobedience. Technology shouldn't dictate your actions, your habits, and how you interact with it. You should dictate what technology accomplishes for you.